my name is Coach Maddie and I've got some weight loss tips and tricks for you today. So let's dive in. Now today I want to talk about your vices. So that one little thing that always seems to get in your way of losing weight, that always seems to slip you up, that you can't just get a hold of or get rid of once and for all. Now, when it comes to weight loss, right? For the most part, we all have a general idea of what it takes, right? We know that there needs to be some adjustment to our food, whether it's what we're eating, how much we're eating, when we're eating, all of that. And we need to move more, right? Whether that's walking, whether that's working out, right? There's some type of activity and nutrition component involved if you want to lose weight. Now, of course, there's more nuances based on your lifestyle, your age, your hormones, menopause, all that fun stuff that you have to take into account to customize the activity and the nutrition. But as a starting point, we almost all know that it's going to take something to do with nutrition and something to do with your activity levels, right? So awesome. That's a great starting point. That's a good baseline. It's kind of the bare minimum with where you start. Okay, I'm going to adjust my nutrition, whatever that means, and adjust my activity, whatever that means to you. Now, if you chances are if you're listening to me talk, you've done this quite a few times before, whether you've tried many different diets, many different supplements. Like me, I've tried things like keto, fasting, Weight Watchers, Beachbody, Jenny Craig, freaking cleanses, detox, you name it. I've tried tons of stuff. Or on the fitness side of things, maybe you started walking more. Maybe you took a dance class. Maybe you bought a gym membership, personal trainer, downloaded an app. You get my point. Whether you've kind of dabbled in both or all or many, like me, I probably have lost count of how many I've actually tried. It's crazy. So that's kind of where you start. And then whether or not you've done this and you've done that, you've probably come to a point where you stopped. Either you reached your goal and you stopped doing what it took to get there. You go back to old habits and then you plateau or you fall back and gain more weight back. Or it wasn't what you thought it would be. You didn't lose the weight or it was too restrictive and you're kind of back at square one again. Now, something happened despite probably that program or that thing not being a good fit for you. On top of that, there was some type of habit that you keep carrying with you, some type of impulse, a vice, you can call it, that keeps showing up that is sabotaging you. So I want you to take a second right now and I want you to say, okay, what is my vice? What is that one thing that always rears its ugly head and I just can't seem to get rid of or can't seem to add or can't seem to change or get control of? What is that? Is that, I love 4 sugars in my coffee in the morning? Is it I love having something sweet after dinner every day? Is it I love going to lunch with my coworkers every day? What is your vice, right? Is it cigarettes? Is it a glass of wine every night? Is it a bag of chips with a movie on Fridays with your husband? Like, what is the one vice that you know is not the greatest habit and that always seems to be the thing that creeps back in when you're trying to get healthy and lose weight, that throws you off? So what is your vice? Now, here's the thing about that vice. It's most likely been around for quite a while. And unfortunately, with time, comes expertise, right? So over the time of you kind of practicing this unwanted vice or habit, you've now become an expert at it. So you kind of are master at doing this thing all the time easily. So it's very ingrained in you. And so that is why it's a little bit more challenging to rewire or unprogram to do that, because you've just been practicing it so long, right? If I told you how to unlearn how to walk, you wouldn't even know where to start. What does that even mean, right? Same idea with this vice, right? It's just in our programming. It's what we do. Something triggers us and then we follow this chain of events and we follow out this pattern and this cycle as usual. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means it's going to be challenging to tackle, challenging to address, to control, to actually win over or replace. And because it's challenging, what you don't want to do is kind of look at this vice as black and white. I need to figure this out and not do it or keep doing it. It's not doing it or not doing it. It can't be that black and white, okay? Because guess what? Life's not black and white. There's a lot of gray areas. We are imperfect as humans. We can't just flip a switch and then it all changes. So we can't look at this vice and say, I have to stop it. I do it or I don't do it. I'm not going to do it anymore. Black and white is not going to work in the case of habits when it comes to your weight loss. Otherwise, you would have done that already and been at your goal and you wouldn't need to hear me speak right now, right? So if we're not looking at it as black and white, where's this gray area? Well, the easiest way to tackle your vice and overcome it, okay, is to say something like, what actually leads up to the vice? How can we actually break down the vice? Because the bad habit, the impulse that we're trying to control, it's not just one event. It's a series of events that gets you there. So let's say you struggle with binge eating at nighttime, okay? So maybe your binge eating is triggered by a stressful day at work. So let's say you get an email from your boss and he's not happy with you. And then that makes you stressed and anxious. And then when you get home, you're extra stressed and anxious. You got to take care of the family. You're overwhelmed. And then by the time you sit down, you have already planned out what you want to eat. You've planned out how much you're going to eat, what you're going to have after it, what show you're going to watch while you're eating it, so on and so forth. So there's lots of steps, right? Whether we've actually planned those steps or we go through them subconsciously or unconsciously, unknowingly, there are steps to playing out this vice. And it begins way before you actually do the habit. So if we know there are steps and we know that it's broken up, then all you got to do is reverse engineer how this pattern has been playing out. Very rarely do we ever look at that. We just look at the thing, doing the thing as bad, and then we keep focusing on the thing. Well, what if we stop focusing on the thing, because clearly that's not working, and we focus on the stuff leading up to the thing? And then that's where we start. So for example, right, when you go to the pantry for that late night snack, guess what you have to do first? Step 1, open the cabinet. Step 2, pull out the food. Step 3, grab a bowl. Step 4, pour. Step 5, go sit on the couch. Step 6, turn on the TV. Step 7, find the show you want. Step 8, start to eat, right? So that's just an example of 8 steps from where you started eating in front of the TV, right? So any one of those steps, you can intervene. Any one of those steps you can stop, right? So you can say, I'm not opening the pantry today instead of I'm not eating tonight, right? Or all you have to do is insert a little bit more time between each step. Okay, I'm going to open the pantry, but every time I do one of my steps, I'm going to put an alarm on my phone for 5 minutes and come back, right? So I open the pantry, it's open, I walk away for 5 minutes. Coming back, pull out the thing, put it on the counter for 5 minutes. Walk away, come back, pull out a bowl, put it on the counter, walk away, come back for 5 minutes. And it is not, I know it sounds tedious and I know it sounds silly, but the idea here is we're breaking up a pattern. You're proving to yourself that you can do things differently. You aren't a slave and you're not stuck to the subconscious play. It's like a play we always seem to act out. And then so what you're going to do is now you've proven you have it. You can interrupt it. And then all you got to do is keep interrupting it to give yourself the belief that you do have power over it. Because half the time when those habits rear their ugly heads, we don't even try to fight it because we failed so many times at fighting it before. We're like, what's the point? I'm just going to give in anyway. I'll start fresh tomorrow. And that is not how you're going to be successful. If you do not break that pattern up somewhere, somehow, not perfectly black and white, yes, I did it, no, I didn't do it. It is how did I make it look a little different this time around? How did I recreate, reform, reshape this pattern? And usually the easiest way to do this without focusing on the habit anymore is to break up the steps that lead up to that habit and choose where to start. Whether you say, I'm not doing this step today, or I'm going to slow down this step. And then before you know it, you've completely changed what that habit actually looks like. And if you can change the habit, you now know that you can remove the habit. But it's very hard to go from having a habit straight to removing it. So that's a great tip. And in fact, it also works on the other end, where if you have a habit you want to implement, reverse engineer it and think about the steps that would lead up to it, right? So if you're tired of waking up in the morning, really excited to work out when you get home, and then by the time you get home, you've already talked yourself out of it, well, instead of saying, I'm going to work out today or I'm not going to work out today, it either happens or it doesn't. Instead of doing that, break down the steps that would need to happen in order to get a workout done today. Well, you need to get home, right? You need to get changed, sports bra on, running shoes. You need to put your workout DVD in or whatever. You get my point. There are steps leading up to make sure that habit gets done. Focus on the steps. Focus on the steps because there's more critical thinking there. There's a lot more room to play there. There's a lot more room for small little wins that will encourage you and motivate you to keep going. Because at the end of the day, if you just said you were going to do something and then you didn't do it, or you said you weren't going to do something and then you did it again, you just let yourself down. You're discouraged. Why would you go into the next day motivated and ready to tackle it again if you just keep repeating it and failing? So break it down into steps. Okay, that's gonna be much more manageable, much more achievable, and a lot more small victories for you along the way, which is key if you wanna keep going. We can't keep disappointing ourselves and having these big letdowns. Otherwise, we're eventually gonna stop trying altogether, and we're just gonna accept that this is the way my body's gonna look. It's downhill from here. I'm just gonna keep gaining weight until I die. And that's just not the case. So I hope that little tip or perspective shift has helped you. If it did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, turn on that notification button so you can hear and see when we drop more awesome tips and tricks for you. And if you do want to learn more about the Fit Queen way of weight loss, you can visit fitqueen.com. Thank you for joining me. Always a pleasure. I will see you on the next video.